Well, hello from Sayville, New York. I am headed to Fire Island Pines for a week of vacation, and I got here in this. This is the 2025 Hyundai Santa Cruz XRT. Now, I've never driven a Santa Cruz for the channel, and Hyundai did a few little tiny updates for 2025. It's mostly cosmetics and interior tweaks, and then they added this XRT version here, which is a little bit of off-road extra goodness on top of what the base Santa Cruz could do. But these are going to be used more as cars than trucks for most buyers day to day, so let's just get right to it and talk about what this thing is and see how it is to use for basic highway road trip. So a couple quick basics with the Santa Cruz. This is of course a unibody pickup. It's based on the Tucson, and it's got a longer wheelbase and slightly less rear seat legroom because you have to have room for the truck bed over here. So the truck bed is going to be covered. It's got this tonneau, and it does not go through into the cab or anything. It's about 4.5 feet long here. And then of course you do have a pretty usable back seat, despite having a little less legroom than that of the Tucson. Now otherwise inside, this is going to be pretty similar to a 2025 Tucson. You see we've got a new steering wheel for 2025, and then there's a dual gauge screen and infotainment screen setup here. That's new for this year as well. Otherwise, if you've seen a Santa Cruz, this is going to be the same as in years past, and this one being the XRT, it gets these unique wheels with an all-terrain tire by Continental, and then you get a new front fascia with red tow hooks and a little bit better approach angle versus a regular Santa Cruz. So those are going to be kind of your quick updates and key info, and let's hop on the highway and see how this thing is to drive. All right, so Hyundai Santa Cruz XRT. First things first, leaving the rest stop here, plenty of power and torque. This being that turbo for, 281 horsepower, 311 pound-feet is more than enough for something this size. And, on the move like this, I think it pairs nicely to the DCT. You don't really notice the DCT compared to a torque converter automatic. Like it's entirely fine. What is interesting with the transmission choice here, I don't know. I don't really understand the benefit of it, to be honest. This is not a performance car. No version of the Santa Cruz is. They don't have like the Maverick Lobo variant here. And it's not great in the city. Like, it's fine, but a torque converter is going to do better. And if you get the non-turbocharged version of this truck, car, SUV thing, if you get that, you get an 8-speed torque converter automatic. And I just kind of wish that's what you got with these. I drove this drivetrain in a Tucson a couple years ago, and I kind of didn't love it there either. Maybe it was a Santa Fe. Either way, it just gets a little juddery in first, if you're doing a lot of like traffic stop and go type stuff, so city driving or slow moving traffic on the highway, that sort of thing. It can just be a little frustrating or not super smooth. Otherwise, this is a pretty nice riding vehicle. So the XRT, I was a little worried for the sake of a highway trip here because, they butch this up a touch with the all-terrain tires. These are not especially noisy. They're a Continental all-terrain, and really the noise I've got here at 80 miles an hour is wind noise more than tire noise, which you're just going to get at those sorts of speeds. So, it's not really impacting the driving experience or the ride quality, and then the ride itself is good. So every Santa Cruz, or at least most Santa Cruzes, have automatic load leveling rear suspension. So those are called Nevomat shocks, and they are a very simple mechanical setup. Volvo used them a long time ago, and then Hyundai and Kia have been using them. Like if you get the tow package on a Palisade or a Telluride, it has a very similar shock setup. So basically, as you put weight on the shocks in the rear, you will see the whole vehicle sink, and then as you start driving and they start doing shock absorber things, they've got two different valves and this fluid that will kind of pump itself back up to the ideal spot where everything's equalized. So it's a really cool setup. It's very simple. There's no airbags. There's nothing fancy going on. And I think they're pretty reliable long term. So it's a cool system. Obviously, I don't really have much in here other than my bag and the truck bed, so we'll talk about that in just a second. But the ride quality is good. It's comfortable, and the damping is nice, even over kind of big highway, expansion joints that get the whole truck kind of heaving over them. It controls the ride really, really nicely. I think steering is fine. It's, you know, kind of what you expect out of a truck like this. It's nothing too crazy, but it's not bad. It's communicative enough, and then the brakes are very well tuned. So, you know, the basic mechanicals of how this thing drives are nice. Several people asked me how it cars versus how it trucks, because this is effectively a Tucson that they stretched the wheelbase but then shortened some of the interior volume to give you the truck bed, and I think it cars really nicely. So compared to the Ford Maverick, its #1 competitor, this feels nicer inside. And I've driven a loaded Maverick Lariat when those first came out. This just feels more like a car. The Maverick feels more like a truck, despite them both being unibody, you know, SUV base, whatever platforms. This is going to feel more like a car, and I think it's a little more clever bed-wise than the Maverick. So the truck bed is similar to a Honda Ridgelines in that it's got a lockable storage compartment under the bed floor, and they don't use it for anything crazy. It's just a big kind of waterproof tub that you could fit probably a rollerboard suitcase in there and some other stuff around it. I didn't bother putting mine in there because it's just in the regular bed because I've got nothing else back there, but it does give you some extra space, which is nice. And then there's also a built-in hard tonneau cover that can lock. My tonneau cover is currently broken in the closed position. I cannot make it open for the life of me, and I've tried every single thing to unlock it and reposition it and change the tension on it and all of that stuff. It seems to be a kind of common problem when I've searched about the Santa Cruz in particular. So maybe not the best implementation of that, but I love the fact that it can be a big trunk effectively. The other problem with those retractable tonneaus, they're really handy, but they do eat into your bed space. So something to consider. But I do like the cleverness of it all. And then the other part of this, as far as how this cars versus the Maverick, the back seat, you know, it's not huge, but I do fit in the back seat of this, whereas the back seat of the Maverick with the driver's seat set for myself, I don't necessarily fit back there very well. So I think Hyundai's got a nice package for interior space versus bed space and, you know, overall usability, practicality. The interior here, this is my first time really driving one of these, and they've done mild updates beyond the updated front bumper for 2025. You've got the now standard dual screen kind of curved setup that is proliferating its way across the Hyundai lineup, and you know, it's fine. It's nice. You can see everything. You've got several different gauge cluster views. They all mimic traditional round gauges with something in the center, and I think at this point we are advanced enough in this technology that I would love, if we're going to have a whole screen in front of the driver, I would love to see more clever stuff done with it. This, I would just rather have gauges. But, you know, it's nice and readable. You can change it to see a bunch of different things. And then your right side infotainment system screen is nice and snappy, good graphics if you're on the Hyundai part of it all. And then, of course, CarPlay and Android Auto if you are using that. So it's all very well set up, and then I appreciate we still have lots of buttons. So you've got a real volume knob and tuning knob, you've got hard buttons to take you to different shortcuts within the infotainment system, and then you've got real knobs for your dual zone climate control. The center part of all of this is touch. It's like a touch panel, which do I love? No, but with the climate control set to automatic, you're not going to deal with it much. The heated seat controls are part of that touch panel, which, you know, okay, fine. So the overall, you know, the way this is all controlled is good, I think. Some other driving experience notes. Nice low dashboard, good visibility, even out the back, although those rear pillars are pretty chunky, but, you know, it's part of what you get. And then, you know, good camera views when you're in reverse, crisp cameras, so that is nice. One thing that I want to nitpick about is the highway driving assist. This is the latest version of this from Hyundai, and I have historically said that this is a really good system and one of the best on the market, really, and I'm not feeling it with this one. The lane centering is not doing the best job of centering, and, you know, I'm on I-95, which has very clearly marked lanes here. It's very, very clear, and, you know, if I hit the button, it does an okay job of it, but it kind of wants to pull me toward the inside of the lane, no matter which lane I'm in. And I've tried this off and on for the last, like, 150 miles, and I'm not loving it. And then it has been very nitpicky with me about how much my eyes are pointed directly forward, and please keep looking forward, to where I can't even adjust much on the infotainment system if I need to, before it just has a complete meltdown and says, nope, you're done, and turns itself off. So it's just been kind of oddly irritating. And that is combined with something that I've noticed in all of the Hyundai group vehicles, whether it's Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis. Their collision warning alert system is very overeager, even if you turn the sensitivity all the way down. So what that means is, in heavier traffic, it just constantly beeps and vibrates the steering wheel and makes you, it thinks you're going to hit somebody. And it's like I'm holding a shake weight. It's hysterical. So I don't love that. You can turn off the haptic steering wheel, which I haven't turned on. I got to turn it off. But I don't know. I feel like this system was class leading, and now I'm feeling like it's ready for some updates, simply because other systems have gotten better. And I'm also spoiled, having just come out of a Chevy Silverado that has Super Cruise. So, all this tech continues to march along and evolve, and this is still a good system. I would not say this is toward the bottom of the barrel. It's still toward the top of the whole class. It's not the best anymore. Other thing with the sound system in here, it is good up to about 6/8 of its maximum volume capacity, and then every system is going to clip a little bit because the amplifier will be pushed pretty hard at that point, and you just kind of hear it dipping out of what it can push for volume. The clarity is there, but you can tell you're just overworking it. And this is not the world's highest end sound system, so it's a very small nit to pick, but it's cutting or clipping in a way that I have not heard other systems do to such an extent. So, minor gripes about this whole thing, and I do like it. I like the size of it. It's easy to park. The one thing I wish this is a hybrid, because fuel economy, this is still good. We're averaging 27, 28 doing New Jersey Turnpike and I-95 speeds, which I think is excellent. For the size of this truck, what you're going to do versus what you're not going to do with it, I think I would prefer the extra fuel economy of the hybrid system. And now we're seeing the Ford Maverick be offered with all-wheel drive and the 4,000-pound tow package with the hybrid. I just think that would be my preferred setup for something this small, because you're not pulling a super heavy trailer with it. Hyundai rates these at 5,000 pounds. Would I pull 5,000 pounds with it? I would sure try. I would love to have another one and give it a shot later on, but I just don't know. 5,000 pounds with the dual clutch and the wheelbase and like the size of this, I mean, I'm sure it would do it, and I'm sure it would be fine, but I think most buyers aren't going to be pulling something that heavy, and I think your benefit from having the hybrid system is going to overpower whatever other performance you get out of the 2.5 turbo DCT pairing. And then final comfort piece is the seats. I think the seats are good, but not great. I have found a comfortable driving position. It's good enough for tall people. I don't feel like I'm, scrunched against the steering wheel for my legs versus my torso versus my arms. I can still do the proper, wrist hitting steering wheel drape here. But seats they can be a little bit longer for thigh support for tall people if you've got longer legs. And the lumbar support and general seat shape is only fine for me. It's not bad, but I've had better, more comfortable seats, including those in other Hyundais. So this is definitely slightly above average for seat comfort, but not exceptional, which, that's fine. And seats are a very personal thing, so I always encourage all of you to go sit and spend some real time configuring the seats, making sure you're comfortable, because every body is different. However I fit, my level of comfort is going to be so different from yours. So generally a good cabin in here. And then as far as the XRT part of it all, from what I understand, these are pretty decent off-road anyway, because every all-wheel drive version of the Santa Cruz has that center diff lock. But where some reviewers complained was with the tires. They said that was the big thing that held them back. So it's nice to have the improved tires and the slightly improved approach angle with a different bumper. So, if you really care about that off-road performance, Sure, this will be the stock factory trim that will get you a little bit further than a regular Santa Cruz would. If you don't care about going off-road or super far off-road, I think every all-wheel drive model will do just fine, but I would probably stick to a street-focused version of this, simply because you can eke out a touch better fuel economy with a highway tire versus an all-terrain, and you know, it's just, why not? Like, if you really care about the looks, then great, but I'd probably go for a limited or one of the other trims that are slightly below this that offer similar equipment. And then, you know, I think this cars pretty well, and I think it will truck pretty well too. What's interesting is every time I post something on our social media about, oh, here's the flavor of the week, here's what just showed up, I'm always fascinated by who shows up to comment and what they say. And in the case of the Santa Cruz, these have been out since I think 2022, and had several people comment and say, oh, we've had one and we just love it, or oh, we just got rid of ours, but it was one of the best cars we ever owned. Like, the people who want something like this, that's this size, that can do these things, that can be that nice balance of pickup truck and unibody car crossover, they want it to be really good, and the owner reviews of these have been very positive. So minor complaints, minor quibbles on my end too. I understand the appeal, and I think this versus the Maverick, it just comes down to the feel that you want. This feels a little more car, the Maverick feels a little more truck. This feels a little nicer when you get top trim to top trim. This is definitely going to be a little more luxurious in certain ways, mostly in materials quality and layout of the interior. That's where you're going to notice it the most. But totally understand the appeal of this. It's been a nice road trip partner. Obviously, it's not, you know, going to be the world's most luxurious highway car, but it's doing a nice job here. So overall, really love the package. I think the packaging itself is quite good here, and impressive effort from Hyundai. Oh, and then we have to merge with big trucks. Verrazano Bridge. For those who know the Northeast, we are getting into the thick of it. Can't wait to see how this goes. Normally I leave a little earlier and don't deal with as much traffic, but it's just me today, no friends with me on this trip, and I just decided to be lazy and leave later and catch a later ferry. So go on, GLE, or not. All right. Yeah, strong performance out of that turbo. I like it. Wet roadway, use caution, slow down. Don't they understand I'm in a Santa Cruz XRT with all-terrain tires and lockable center differential? I'm not slowing down for anybody. No, I'll slow down. It's also not wet anymore. But in any case, totally understand the packaging of this car. I like it quite a bit. I think, you know, whether you prefer this or the Maverick really comes down to your preferences on how the feel of the vehicle is. I think they're both going to be similarly capable. I think the Hyundai is a little more clever in certain ways, but I think the Ford wins as far as overall drivetrain options. You know, they've got the EcoBoost and then the hybrid. To me, that's a better onesie-twosie options list versus a 2.5 four-cylinder and a 2.5 turbo four-cylinder and a DCT. It just doesn't quite work to me. But in any case, thank you for coming along. This is a lovely vehicle. I totally get the appeal, and it's been a nice highway partner for my trip. I'm trusting it will be another nice highway partner for the way home in a week. Thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you loved this video, tell your friends. If you hated this video, don't. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We are over there. And then also outmotorsports.com. We've got a bunch of events coming up around the country in person, on the racetrack and on the street. We'd love to have you out for any of those. And we've got a whole community of LGBT automotive enthusiasts online. We would love to be your new best friends over there. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, be well, and we'll see you for the next one.